Now entering the squared circle pit, we have Jamey Jasta of HATEBREED. Jamey, thank you for taking some time to talk to us here.
My pleasure. Good to see you.
Yeah, great to see you too. The Concrete Confessional. It's out Friday, May 13th. Friday the 13th. Pretty metal release date, I feel.
It is, and Destruction has a new album coming out that day as well. So, German thrash, little American hardcore, and then Discharge has a record that day, and Devil Driver. So you got every genre and subgenre on one street date.
And what a swell guy. You're promoting competing releases.
Yeah, I say on my podcast all the time, high tide raises all ships. So you'll see everybody's going to be posting about each other's releases and trying to get everybody to get some metal on the chart that week.
Right on. Well, that's basically all the metal I want to talk about because this is a wrestling-focused podcast. Not going to ask you about the writing or anything. I just want to talk pro wrestling. Hope that's cool.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
All right. Well, first question, who is your favorite pro wrestler?
All right. I was talking about this with Zeus.
Not the wrestler Zeus, the producer Zeus.
No, the producer Zeus. And, he was like saying, oh, we got to go down tonight and see, because he wanted to take a night off the studio to go see Scott Steiner wrestle it was in like Poughkeepsie or something. I don't know when. It was back in December, but I guess he was tweeting like that he got in an accident or hit a deer, and there was everybody I guess had canceled out the card or whatever. So then we went down this rabbit hole of Scott Steiner videos on YouTube and we wasted. And meanwhile, we're paying for the studio. And we're supposed to be finishing the album, and so he's got to be up there now after watching all that stuff because it's just.
Did you see that one promo where he's like talking about math? Like you have like a 33 1/3 chance.
No, but I can only imagine. No.
Yeah. Well, he was like, hey, I'm 100% athlete, and you, Samoa Joe, you only have a 33% chance, but I'm 75% the man. So you have he just had like all these weird numbers, and it was just like,
he's
amazing.
He's incredible. I think he doesn't get as much credit as he deserves.
I agree. Yeah.
He's kind of like underrated.
Yeah. Maybe
because he's still doing the, I guess, smaller promotional circuit. And so until you're like truly retired or until you get that shot back up to TNA or WWE, like it's almost like you don't get the cred. I don't know. I don't agree with that. I mean, I think if I had to really think about like my favorites as a kid, I could go with the politically incorrect answers like Jimmy Superfly Snuka, who's now like, I guess, disgraced, right? Or
potential murderer.
Right. But he was one of my favorites. I always liked Junkyard Dog. I always liked Big John Studd. I actually physically fought my neighbor over the big, I think it was like the 12-inch rubber Big John Studd doll.
Nice.
And then he threw it on the roof of my garage, and it stayed up there for like 2 or 3 seasons, like summer into next spring. And then finally we got a ladder and got up there, and it still held up. Like the paint was still on it. But for later years, I like Mick Foley. I like Chris Jericho. I've had both on my podcast, and they're great. So I don't know. Who's your favorite?
Well, it's hard to, it's really hard. Like when I was a kid, obviously I was a big Hulk Hogan fan. Now I feel like, I'm not really a fan of Hulk Hogan, especially after all that stuff that came out. But Ric Flair is up there. When I was like a teenager, Shawn Michaels was my guy.
See, that was after me. Shawn Michaels was after me. But now I've watched some of his stuff on YouTube, and I'm like, that I could see that. I was big Ultimate Warrior, like all the way. Yeah. And we played a show, Jasta and Jericho. We made like these posters, like Jasta versus Jericho was Fozzy and Jasta together in Poughkeepsie. And I had come out to the theme. The guys learned the Ultimate Warrior theme. Come out with my Ultimate Warrior shirt. Crowd goes crazy. And, after the show, talking to fans outside, you see the shirts. Obviously, at a Fozzy show, you see a lot of the wrestler shirts. But, people were really hyped on dudes that I never really got into, the Hardy Brothers and
so there was a point where you got out of wrestling.
Yeah, for sure.
So what was the turning point for you? When did you kind of... Well, first off, let's talk about how did you get into wrestling? Let's start with that.
Well, New Haven Coliseum was right down the road from my house. And so the WWF would come there, and we would go as kids, and then we would watch Saturday night. What was it?
Main event?
Yes, Main Event. So I remember the first time we were allowed to stay up for that. It was my mother had gone away for something. My mother was like, no way, you're not watching that stuff. Like, she could watch what she wanted to watch. Like, we had to leave, like, when she wanted to watch Dallas or whatever.
Yeah,
but then we couldn't watch Saturday Night Main Event, so we were allowed to watch it. And then that's when I started, getting, like, the magazines.
Do you remember the first one you saw?
I don't. I remember it was still when we had a black and white TV, though.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was probably, it was then. And then, soon after that, my father got a better job as a painter, and then we got a color TV, and then we got cable. And
so did your dad get you into it, or like friends?
I think my cousin John, we used to go there for Christmas Eve, and he was into it. And he liked metal and stuff, too. He liked all sorts of different music. Like, he had Iron Maiden posters.
Yeah, I feel like there's a definite connection between metal and pro wrestling. I think there's a lot of crossover.
For sure. I was saying, like, for the setup of this record, like, I want to do all the wrestling podcasts. I would love to get some music placed, whether it's in TNA or WWE, but it's so hard. It's like, especially as WWE has become more mainstream, they have to have the broadest reach musically. So you're going to see them working with more hip hop and country artists, but it would be great. I mean, I went and sort of auditioned and did some vocals for a song, which I think Sheamus ended up using with another singer on it. And I made it like very rock sounding, and I thought it was great. I'm like, this is going to get used. This is going to be a huge opportunity for the next Jasta record because I'll get some exposure. And then they said, why didn't you like HATEBREED it up? And I was like, well, I thought you wanted it to be more like, clean singing vocals and stuff. But Jim Johnston, who does all the WWE music, is totally cool. He gave me a tour. I went in there. I saw the studio. It was really, really awesome. And he's done some legendary.
He's I feel he's underrated as a composer.
He totally is. Like, the song, it's called Just Another War. Like, I was really impressed with the arrangement, the way the riffs flowed from one hook to the next, the lyrics, the cadence of it. I mean, he is a really good songwriter. Yeah,
and what's interesting to me, too, is I've listened to interviews with him. And, like, he's written, I feel, like, such a variety of music from, rock, hip-hop, even, like, some heavier songs. And he even, like, he said, like, oh, I listen to everything, but I don't really like metal. So I think it's just really funny that he writes these aggressive songs, but, like, death metal specifically. He said what turns him off is, like, the guttural vocal style. So it's just funny to me that, like, he writes this aggressive music but isn't necessarily a fan of it. But that's really interesting. So, like, did you approach them like, hey, I want to write music for one of your wrestlers, or how did that come about?
Yeah, squeaky wheel gets the grease. I always say to all these up and coming bands, like, sometimes you just got to be persistent. I mean, you might be a little annoying, but I mean, I was, even back when they were doing all those soundtracks, I was always hitting up, what's his name, Neil, who used to run like the WWE records. And originally when I wrote Destroy Everything, I thought, let's do this extended section with the bass line looped, and let's try to get John Cena to rap on it, or let's try to get a wrestler. I even said to CM Punk, like, let's do a CM Punk album where I'll write all the fast punk hardcore music and you just sing on it. I mean, I've always tried to collaborate. It's just a matter of getting somebody to listen and actually do it. It's hard. I mean, there's the publishing issue, and then there's you can have artists like Killswitch performs the song, but they didn't write the song.
Right. I actually talked to Mike. He was actually my last guest, Mike D of Killswitch.
Oh, cool.
And he said that, they did present a fully written song for Killswitch, and they kind of hated it and, like, had to rework a lot of parts of it. So they did get a little input, but it's definitely guided by Jim Johnson. So you went in, is it in Connecticut, the studio?
Yeah, Stanford.
And then so they just presented you with, like, lyrics, and they let you listen to the song? Is that kind of how it went down?
Yeah, and then I went back to my studio in Milford, and had the guys play on it from Jasta, and I did the vocals. And yeah, I probably should have just made it heavier and in the face and done, like, the screaming vocals, but I really thought that that's what they, were kind of trying to avoid. But, who knows? I'll do it again. I'm always there. They know how to get a hold of me.
Right. You're not going to turn down that work.
Yeah, no, I would love to do. And there's some guys coming up like this on the NXT roster and stuff too that I was like, it would be great if we did something like heavy but with vocals on it that relate to the wrestler themselves.
Right.
Because that one guy, I think I tweeted about that. It kind of sounds like Fear Factory. Shoot, what's his name now?
Is it Baron Corbin?
Maybe it's Baron. Yeah, he's cool. Shoot, you know what? No, I don't think it's Baron. It's not Seth Rollins. Maybe it's Seth Rollins.
Oh yeah. Well, he's on the main roster.
Well, yeah, but
yeah, he has like that like chugging. I could see it.
It's
being
kind of like a
Fear
Dino
Factory.
style riff. Yeah.
Yeah, that Fear Factory. They should get Fear Factory. I think Fear Factory did a theme or something a while ago, but that's pretty funny. And actually, HATEBREED does have some influence in the underground scene because Ring of Honor used one of your titles for like one of their big shows, Death Before Dishonor.
Before Dishonor from Satisfaction.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just had Frankie Kazarian on my podcast.
Oh, that guy's a big one too.
Yeah, and I was saying, yeah, we should do like together like an event. I don't know if I said this on the podcast or if it was off air, but I was like, we should do something where we team up, where there's a stage and some bands play, and yeah, get with their music people and maybe do some themes, bring back the compilation.
Yeah.
You know, bring back the specials, like where you could see a pay-per-view of a bunch of matches and a band would play.
Right, yeah, that would be. I mean, why not? There's definitely metal fans who are wrestling fans, and I'm sure you could find enough HATEBREED fans to enjoy a pro wrestling show, or vice versa, enough wrestling fans to enjoy it.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I see ECW shirts and every wrestler shirt there is at all of our shows. So it's still there. It just needs to be. It kind of went through this time where it was like a dirty word. It was like oh, it's fake. Well, it was a fucking movie is fake. Like everybody's putting like Rocky quotes and shit on their Instagram. It's like, motherfucker, that's fake. Yeah. That's the same shit. Like, what do you like?
Rocky is essentially a wrestler. Like it's the same. Yes. It's just like there's no real. The difference is it's in a movie as opposed to a weekly show.
Right. You like
a fictional character.
Yeah.
There's no Rocky. Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way too. And like for a while, I would never really talk about how I'm a wrestling fan. And I feel like just recently, like in the last 5 years, sort of with their push into social media and to be like more omnipresent, I feel like the stigma is kind of like fading away a lot more to the point where a lot of people are coming out and being like, oh yeah, I'm a wrestling fan. Like who cares? Like what's the big deal? Whereas like in the late 90s, like once it stopped being cool in the mid 2000s, it kind of just like, oh, we can't really talk about it. Right. I don't really want to let people know that I'm a wrestling fan just because of their preconceived notions of what a wrestling fan is.
Totally. And now I think, if you were to say to me, hey, I watch Days of Our Lives, I would go, great. I used to watch Passions. I used to watch General Hospital. That was a thing like we would all talk about like with every band. Like I remember sitting with Lorenzo from Sworn Enemy, we were joking around about Passions. Timmy on Passions. That was like, there's no difference. Passions in wrestling. Yeah. And so it's okay for all these housewives to watch Passions. It's sexist if you say it's not okay for a man to watch a soap opera, whether it's daytime or wrestling.
Sure.
It's just everybody likes a good story. If the storyline's good, if the narrative's cool, then what's wrong with that? We got enough. We got bills to pay. We got kids to feed. We got records to put out. Why can't we just enjoy it? Like I watch Divas, and my daughter was like, "Oh, don't let your fans don't let your fans know that you watch Divas." I was like, "I'll tweet it right now." I was like, "I bet you half the people on my Twitter are watching this right now."
You talking about Total Divas, the reality show?
Yeah.
I think it's one of the best reality shows on television.
It's incredible. It's incredible. It really like gave me a different outlook on the business. And you know what? In metal and rock, everybody's into the business. People are always talking about sound scans and numbers and Polestar and this stuff. Same thing with wrestling. People want to know, was this show sold out? Who's getting put in? Who's getting paid what?
I think, honestly, like that's what I feel like people who aren't really into wrestling don't understand. Like the most interesting aspect of the show is what happens behind the scenes is like why did this person win? What happened to this person? Like, why did they say this to each other? What does that mean? And it's all like there's such a story undercurrent of a story that is so much more interesting to follow, sometimes more so than the main show itself.
I agree, and I feel like they've put out their business like at the live shows. You'll go and it'll be like Walmart's #1 selling brand for teen girls 18, like everything on the screen, like the #1 this, the most sold out venues here, the most, and you think, wow, I mean, it's really great. If we could emulate that with metal and hardcore music and have a touring show that gives all these people a job, that networks pick up, that bring in advertisers, we would be in such a better place. But it's like we don't want to learn from these established brands. I don't know why, or we can't get it together to make that happen. But it would be cool to see.
It's interesting that you say that because I have thought about that too. How like there's such a correlation between just it. Ultimately, it's just a live event, and metal puts on live events. I think the difference though is that WWE, it's one entity, and like all of these wrestlers who I would correlate to like a band all work under this one umbrella. Whereas with bands, they're all independent in a sense, looking out for their own good, and there's no like higher authority. There's no like overarching company. Like maybe that would be the job of a label, but not really to like tell them what to do. Essentially, be like, hey, this is what we're doing. We're doing this tour. You either fall in line or you're getting dropped or whatever.
Well, there's just no Vince McMahon. That's the thing. He micromanages everything, and he can be a dick when he has to be a dick. He can be cool when he needs to be cool. He can cut the right check and get the right people involved. He can hire the best production elements. From working with a website and running a podcast, it's like, imagine if I was to come to you right now and say, here's $100,000. You could go and you could take that and you could get a lot of shit done, right? Now think about them and the millions that they have and what they can do with the network. I don't know if we could do a metal network with $100,000, but do you know what I mean? Like if there was
just like that, like if there was a metal version of the WWE network, it would be impossible because you have to get all of these clearances, all the licensing from every label.
It's got to be done with unknown local and regional bands that want the opportunity that you can. Because think about this. The kids out there that are a star, like when you see a local band and you go, that kid's a fucking star. Like there's a kid, a guitar player up by me. He's a shredder. He's a star. And you go, that kid's a star. But it doesn't matter if you don't have the right manager, if you don't have the right label. You have to have the perfect storm. You could be the best shredder if you don't have the amount of YouTube subscribers you need, if you don't have the right song, if you don't have the right representation, you're fucked. But if you had a network that you could plug into where maybe you had a stake in it or you had a small piece of it or you could tie it to your other social media.
If there was just some infrastructure, which there isn't.
Then it could work. But this is something we talked about this so much. Like we talked about different things like I thought, why isn't there a network with all the old magazines and all the old zines and everything like for an iPad app? There's so much stuff that can be done, but then you got to have people that can follow through, that are like a Vince McMahon, that can be a dick, because you got to be a dick.
Yeah, and coming up with the idea is essentially the easiest part. It's like putting everything into mode, like the nitty gritty, the small details. That's where you get held up, because that's a great idea. Like, why isn't there an archive of like every Metal Maniacs, like an iPad app, but like to get that cleared? Yeah,
I want to go back and I want to read all those rips. Like they're in storage, they're buried. I have them. I have all the old Metal Maniacs, rips, Circus. I was trying to find. We had a fold out poster for Perseverance where we're all drunk with our shirts off. If anybody has this, send me a screenshot of it. It was a poster in Circus. I'm like, where is that? I want that now. I want to reprint it for the whatever 20th anniversary or whatever. And so I thought, man, that would imagine it. But think about all the curation that would have to be done, right? Like aggregating all the info, getting someone to type it if it's not, saved in the right format. Same thing with music. It's like you got to get somebody to ingest all this stuff. I'm actually thinking about doing it with the podcast where if I change over to a subscription model, I'll tell bands, look, you can give me the music, but it's got to be gratis until I get to a certain amount of subscribers. And then if you're giving me the music, if you're donating content, and I get to a certain amount of subscribers, then whoever's got the most plays, we could do it how they administer any plays on any web. I don't know what the rate is. I'm sure it's like point.
I don't know.
0.00000 whatever 11.
Oh, per play.
Yeah. But do you know what I mean? Like if you if you have Marin's app and you want to, if you want to go to the paywall, you can listen to all his old episodes. I think it's like $250 a month or $450 a month. Yeah. But imagine if that also had music in it. So there's stuff that could be done. It could be really cool, but it would be even cooler if it was like a UFC Fight Pass or WWE network, where then you're getting uploaded concerts and DVDs and things like from the past. Because I went on and I was watching all those old ECW videos, and I don't know if those are on WWE Network, but I was watching it on YouTube. But on UFC Fight Pass, I watched Pride. I went back and watched all the early UFCs. I mean, it was amazing. I thought, how cool would that be if we had this in metal?
Right. Yeah, like if you could watch any, Slayer. I mean,
Like-
in a sense, Metallica's doing it just with their own shit. Like you can go back and watch any available Metallica bootleg on their site. So, but that's again what I'm saying. Like Metallica is in essence WWE. Like they look at themselves like there's no Vince McMahon, as you were saying.
Then they lose money on a lot of projects. Like they lost money on the film, they lost money on the festival, and so like I really commend them to being able to take such a massive risk to try to do such a positive thing and then lose money on it. It's like fuck, man, because we were up for that Orion Fest, and I remember I think we had already scheduled like a European festival, so we couldn't do it, or something happened where we couldn't do it, and they were really paying well. I saw some other bands' guarantees, and I thought, fuck, man, if they're paying this band, and I knew what they normally get. And I saw what they were getting paid for Orion. I was like, holy shit, this thing might be a massive loss. And then they ended up admitting that it was.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, what if they put that into something like an Ozfest or a Mayhem Fest or even, doing like their own award show or their own app or their own network. I mean,
one thing I want to say about Metallica too is people don't realize the trickle down effect of their thing. Like you were saying, like they were paying metal bands way higher than their guarantee. And as a member of the press, I can say I've never been treated better, like at a press area. Like they fed us, they gave us drinks all the time, which never happens. Like we're usually fending for ourselves. We have to like run out and like find any available things. So they were so nice. And even with the movie, like I know it lost a lot of money. Like again, just from a website point of view, they bought so many ads for that movie. Like it was one of our biggest sales.
I saw it on buses.
Yeah. And it's like people don't realize like how that trickles down into the community, because it's like, well, they're going to market to metalheads. So like this is budgets for, metal stuff. And people don't realize that about Metallica when you're at that level, how your success affects the success of others.
It's so true. I mean, they were a career changer for me. I feel like if they didn't play the Perseverance video when they hosted Headbangers Ball, I don't think any of the events that happened after would have happened. I really feel like, because that launched the record back into the Billboard hard chart. I think we stayed on the hard chart for like 2 years. And I feel like them playing that video got me the job as a host and really kind of legitimized the band, because we had paid for that video ourselves, shot it in Jersey on our own dime and in the snow and basically showed Universal, like, look, we're a legit band. You got to treat us like you would any other band. Like, we don't just get one video. You need a second video. You gave all these other bands 2-3 videos. Why aren't we getting it? But they were making money on us. Whereas with the other bands, they were losing money.
Right.
And so, like, Metallica really had a hand in that. And you're right. The trickle down is massive. Imagine if they could use, like, the funds like that they did Orion Fest with to do a label or even some sort of thing where they have their own YouTube or they have their own Spotify,
right?
Where they're
or their own like metal network, like metal
right, and they're paying a better rate. Like when that Tidal thing came out and all those pop artists and rap artists were up on there, I was like, who's representing rock? And why should anybody in underground music or rock music or metal music, why should anybody give a fuck about Tidal?
Yeah. I feel like rock in general is pretty underrepresented in mainstream
like the wrestling of entertainment.
Yeah.
Right? We're like the UFC. Yeah. Metal is like the UFC of sports.
Yeah. Well, you talk about Perseverance. I truly feel that song and really that record is like one of the best pump up albums in the gym. There's so many times where I'm like at the gym and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna leave. But then I put on that track or that album and I'm like, boom, another 20 minutes on the cardio machine just by hearing you shout Perseverance in my ear.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Do you get like do wrestlers come up to you and tell you like, hey, I love listening to HATEBREED at the gym because I feel like it's perfect gym music?
Yeah, no, I get a lot of great feedback from everybody, all different walks of life. For everybody, a lot of power lifters, a lot of wrestlers, a lot of MMA fighters. And now I'm noticing, and I don't do much of Instagram, but when I do check it, I'll see CrossFit, I'll see like these Spartan race, people make shirts, Team Perseverance, or
right.
I saw like somebody had like Team Divinity of Purpose and they had Own Your World lyrics on their shirt. And then I'll see like people, like I talked to a lot of people when I ran the Wounded Warriors race. People said, "Oh, I got HATEBREED in my headphones for the race." And I did the 10K portion of it, and man, I was dying at the end of it. And
should have put on some Perseverance.
I put on Lamb of God, Walk With Me in Hell, or Walk With Me. Yeah,
Lamb of God is
that was, ladies are going by me, pushing kids in a stroller, and I'm like huffing and puffing. I'm like, I gotta beat her at least.
It's funny, yeah. Like I feel like with like pump up music, it has to be a certain BPM. Like you can't listen to like Big Destroyers too fast. You can't keep up with the pace of the drums with your running.
Destroyer, wow! We were at Heavy Montreal, and Randy and we did a book signing at the Hateware tent for Randy, and then I did my signing, and then we just kind of joined our signings, and some band was playing, and I was like, man, this is fucking awesome. I was like, it sounds like Dying Fetus, or I don't know. I was saying something to Randy, and he goes, "You don't know who this is." I can't. My Randy imitation is not that good, but he's like, "This is Pig Destroyer. They're from Richmond or whatever. I don't know where they're from. Are they from Richmond? Okay, they're from near him.
Yeah.
They were fucking great." And then I talked to those dudes after the show, and I gotta go listen to theirs. I think that they might be a good gym band. I think it might be all right. You just have to do different types of reps. Like they might be like an elliptical thing where like every other beat.
Well, definitely not elliptical because I tried it and I was like running too fast. Okay. I was like winding myself.
Oh, they were good. I was like,
yeah, no, I love Pig Destroyer.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know how I missed the boat on that.
Yeah, definitely get into it. They got like 5 or 6. Right, they're pretty short. It's a grind, so
yeah,
not a long album.
No, they were like throwing down like pit riffs. Like there was like some slamming shit. Like it wasn't normally when I hear grind, it's like, look, like I have Napalm Death, I have Infest. Like, do I need anything else? Like, has there been anybody who's really up the game? And then Randy was like, dude, check it out. I'm telling you that. And it was like, wow. But there was slamming shit, too.
Yeah. There's definitely good slam breakdowns in there, too.
Yeah.
We kind of touched on this earlier. How did you get out of wrestling? Like, what was like when you were like, I need a break?
I want to say late 90s. When Frank was in Ringworm, we did a show together, and I think he was big on the NWO stuff. Like, he was into all that. Like, I think he liked, like, the Hollywood Hogan gimmick and all that stuff, and that was around the time where I was like, really? Like, and he was trying to tell me about it. And I don't think, going into 2000, 2001, that was like when it was totally off my radar.
Right. Well, it also was kind of like the decline in popularity, almost like WCW went out of business. It was just WWE. ECW went out of business.
Yeah.
Were you a big ECW fan?
I liked ECW a lot. I wasn't a super fan like Frank was, but he would always talk about it and tell me about it. And they went to shows and they like partied with like Rob Van Dam. Was Rob Van Dam in ECW? Yeah. And, they would do, like the Agora, I think, was hosting a lot of ECW events in the late 90s, mid to late 90s.
It's funny also you mentioned the New Haven Coliseum, was it?
Yeah.
Because I'm like 99% certain that like before Vince McMahon Sr. gave Vince McMahon Jr. WWF in like the early 80s, he sold him the New Haven Coliseum to promote events there, concerts and wrestling, to give him an idea of live event promotion as like a tryout before he like bumped him up to running the whole company. So like that was like his testing grounds.
Yes.
Him and Linda McMahon would co-promote concerts, and like the Ringling Brothers when it would come around. And I believe it was
the Nighthawks played there. Yeah, they had Rage Against the Machine, Pantera. I mean, it was my dream. It was my goal to try to play there, and we never got the chance. They tore it down. But there was a lot of shows, so you could go, and that was like still when it was like affordable. But I mean, it's all a blur. That time also, like I want to say Bam Bam Bigelow was still wrestling.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw him. Who else did we see? There was
So you've gone to live shows?
Yeah.
Like what are some of your favorite memories?
I actually had a pretty good memory recently. I went to the Prudential Center and with Danny from Biohazard, and we took his sons.
Oh, nice.
And Jericho hooked us up, and we were like front row. And the great what's his name? He looks like he has a fake leg, but it's not. I was asking about it. I want to say Ali. Is it? No. What's the guy? He was like an Indian movie star.
Great Khali?
Khali. He was there. Everybody was there. Cena was there. I mean, it was awesome. And seeing the kids like arguing over who they like and rooting for, and then CM Punk came out. I mean, I guess it's not that recent now.
It was a few years ago.
But it was cool to see the kids' reactions.
Yes, I agree.
And then also having kids stop us and go, "Oh my God, HATEBREED, Biohazard!" And then there's kids there that were wearing. CM Punk had this whole new audience. There was kids in the crowd wearing Bad Brains, Agnostic Front, Madball, Rancid, there to see wrestling. And I thought that's really cool because that's kind of bridging the punk and hardcore aspect of it.
Yeah, that's something why I always loved CM Punk is he did represent for the hardcore scene, and he would always, shout out hardcore bands like H2O. He's big friends with dudes from Rancid and stuff.
Yeah, and he put stuff in his promos.
Yeah,
he would be like he would say stuff in the ring like, you want to see me fail, you'll never get your chance, or he'd be like, facing what consumes you is the only way to be free. And people would always hit me up like, dude, are you seeing this? Like, this is crazy. And so he just hit me up recently saying, he's really looking forward to the album. And so I sent him some stuff and he's like, dude, this is great. So he's always been super cool and super supportive. He was another one when Divinity of Purpose came out. I really feel like it wouldn't have had the reach and it wouldn't have had the success if he and other guys who have that social media platform involved in MMA and wrestling, putting it out there, because there's a whole new generation of kids that, they're not in the know. They're not in the circle, So I feel like Divinity of Purpose got a really big boost. I don't think we would have had that first week if he didn't tweet about it.
So you got out of it early 2000s.
99, 2000.
What drew you back into pro wrestling?
Well, I just been on the in and the out ever since, I'd say probably around Supremacy. Just because when we got off Roadrunner and everything was kind of up in the air, I thought, I don't know, how much synergy is there really going to be with metal and wrestling? Like, it seemed like no matter what we did, they weren't really interested. And so when someone, I think in any other sort of aspect of entertainment, kind of looks at metal or hardcore as like not marketable enough, or that you don't want to work together, you just got to go and put your energy and your focus on the areas that, the people are willing to work with you. And so I think, having always been an MMA fan, and then I always liked Access TV. Like they put Honor Never Dies on all their their MMA series. Like they'll show RFA, they'll show CES. They do fights in Providence. They'll show and I've sponsored a lot of those guys like MFC, Maximum Fighting Championship.
These are all like smaller MMA companies.
Yeah, and so they're showing the Honor Never Dies video. They're letting Sokoju come out to Jamey Jasta song. They're letting Brian Cobb come out to HATEBREED. They're letting even Bellator, like they let Emmanuel Newton come out to Honor Never Dies. They let him wear the Hate Wear shirt everywhere. And I mean, so really it's just like my focus just went more towards MMA because it really seemed like they were more willing to work with us. I mean, I've done some stuff with boxing too. Like, some guys have come out, some boxers have come out to some Jasta songs. But I guess, what do they say? They say energy, attention flows where energy goes. That's, I guess, my energy was just trying to network with people who were willing to work with us.
Right. So who are your guys like right now? Who
all right.
wrestlers do you like?
I would say I like Seth Rollins.
Yes.
I was liking Daniel Bryan, but now he's retired.
Yeah,
right?
he's done.
Yeah, so
Too many concussions. Kind of a bummer because I felt like he was a really great wrestler and like a good entertainer too.
The trajectory was there, right?
Yeah.
Like it was, and his thing on Divas was like interesting as well because you got to see like him in his day-to-day life.
Yeah, and I love how he interacts with his sister-in-law,
Yes.
Nikki, because like they would, unless if he wasn't married to Nikki's sister, I feel like they would never hang out. They wouldn't be friends, but like they're kind of forced to hang out. Not that they hate each other, but they just have such different life philosophies. It's funny to see that clash because it seems pretty real.
Yeah. You know what's really cool about WWE is that they, for the most part, and I know some fans will disagree with me on this, but for the most part, they honor the legacy and they keep faces around, or they'll have recurring faces that have been involved with the brand, that keeps like the parents and the people who might be parents soon, and other people involved and interested. And so, although I kind of like scoffed when I saw the card for WrestleMania, I thought, I don't know, we'll see. Like, I had a gig, and I we had Jasta open for Nonpoint in Hartford. The place is packed. I couldn't believe it, especially against WrestleMania, because I've done shows the night of WrestleMania where the crowd was small, specifically because people were like, no way, we can't go to the show, we got to watch WrestleMania. It's almost like doing a show on Super Bowl Sunday. And so, but then I said, I can't believe you guys are here not watching WrestleMania. I'm like, be honest, who's taping WrestleMania? And like, not a lot of hands went up. And my bass player, Chris, joked on the mic, like, nobody tapes anymore, bro. Like, you're the only one with a VCR stuff. And I'm like, all right, sorry, who's DVRing WrestleMania? And like, maybe like 20 hands went up. But looking at the card, I guess The Rock was going to be there, Undertaker, Triple H.
Yeah.
Like, those... I mean, I liked all those guys. I always thought they were interesting, but to me, it was kind of like, I'm like, well, who's the new guy? Like, who's the hot new guy? Like, that's coming up that everybody likes. And I guess it's, was it AJ
Styles?
Yeah. Like,
yeah, he's really good.
He's got a big buzz right now, right? And so, it's kind of like how they treat the legacy artists in Europe, like on festivals. Like when we went to play with Metallica, you know who Metallica put on direct support in Germany? Creator. I'm like, that's awesome, because Creator is like the Undertaker of,
of Germany,
right? Like, you want to see Creator. You're in Germany, you want to see Creator. Just like on WrestleMania, you want to see Undertaker.
Yeah.
Do you want to see him win again? I don't know, right?
Yeah. I mean, I know you said you didn't see it, so I don't necessarily want to spoil it for you. But Undertaker. As much, I have the utmost respect for him. I can't really say anything about it, but I kind of feel like he's at the end of his rope, and it's just his matches are consistently slower, and like you could see he's so winded, and it's like, dude, you don't have to do this. Like, take a step back. You don't need the money. You're good. You're good. You have the respect. You have everything. Just stop. Don't ruin your legacy. Yeah.
So, but it's cool that they do that, because it just makes for the older fans to like have something to talk about and check it out. But it'd be nice if the older fans, I guess, really took to like one of these younger guys. Yeah, I think they do. I think it's also just how they're presented by WWE. WWE kind of, I feel like one of their weaknesses is like presenting new talent as like a viable threat. It always seems like whatever new talent they have, they'll just end up losing to John Cena or whatever, and they have to like make them seem on the same level as John Cena to be accepted, so that in 10 years, in 15 years, they could be the ones they could be like The Rock making his return at WrestleMania. Because it's like right now, I think the focus is a little too much on like the legends, because they're not thinking about how it's going to affect them down the line 5-10 years, when these legends are just going to be way too old to even believably kick anybody's ass.